PowerBoat Television, North America's premier boating show. Here's this week's My Boat feature.
If your windlass has had a lot of use and a lot of years on it, it may be time for a replacement. So this week on My Boat, we're going to show you how to retrofit a windlass. In this case, out with the bad or the good and in with the new.
The Lumar windlass we selected came with everything required except the wiring. With safety in mind, the battery switches were turned off before starting the project. Access to the anchor locker was through a hatch at the head of the V-berth, which made working a bit awkward even while lying down on the job. The first task was to drop the control solenoids, battery cables, and control wires from the old windlass so they could be removed. Needless to say, holding one's arms in that position was a killer. But eventually the old control solenoids were out. It felt great to get back out on deck for a stretch and unbolt the old good windlass and remove it.
Now what we should be doing first, and the best way to fix this up, is you'll see we've got holes here from the electric motor, the mounting bolts, and of course where the road went through into the locker. We're going to make a panel that'll fill this area and cover the holes and provide the strength out of king starboard.
After checking, the measurements of the working area were transferred to the king starboard. On shore, a jigsaw made quick work of cutting the starboard to size, and a bit of light sanding cleaned up all of the edges.
Well, we've cut our starboard mounting plate here, and we've pre-marked where the center line was from the old windlass and one of the screw holes. So we just want to check our positioning with the center mark on the deck and as well with our template.
With the template taped to the starboard, the holes were drilled for the mounting studs and wires, and a hole saw was used to make a 3-inch hole for the road. Back on deck, the starboard and template were lined up on the marks as a guide, and the 3-inch hole was started. Setting the starboard aside, the hole was cut through the deck. With the starboard back in place, the holes were drilled for the power leads, then the 3 mounting holes. Next, the mounting studs were screwed into the windlass and tightened down. Before setting the windlass in place, the gasket from the kit was slipped onto the studs. Then the starboard base was slid into position.
Well, we've done the mechanical work, the cutting and drilling with respect to the windlass, so now it's time to mount it, get it in position, and of course, to make sure we're going to protect the deck, we're going to use a very good grade above the waterline sealer silicone from 3M to not only put some down for the current holes, but just patch up a few of the other ones as well.
To ensure everything was watertight, silicone was generously applied to the starboard. After inserting the wires, the windlass was set in place and the mounting pushed firmly to get the mounting studs through the holes. Back below, the washers and nuts were installed on the studs, but we won't bore you with this arduous task. By the way, as part of this project, we had to install a cleat to tie off the road when at anchor.
Next task in the installation here is the wiring. Now remember, this is a retrofit, so we're fortunate. We don't have to run battery cables, control lines, and everything throughout the boat. We're just going to use the existing wires here to take care of the job.
Following the detailed instructions from Lumar, the various power cables from the battery and windlass were connected to the control solenoid. Finally, the control wires from the helm were connected. The last task was to mount the solenoid, clean up the wiring with zip ties, and eventually cut off the extra length of the mounting studs.
Fairly straightforward, probably a 5 out of 10 in difficulty since we didn't have to run all the wiring. Now all I've got left to do is get 150 feet of road and 50 feet of chain into the locker.